All right, hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Tonight is Friday, August 20th, 2021. This is your evening tropical update. We are still tracking tonight Hurricane Grace down on final approach to the Mexican coastline, and we also have Tropical Storm Henri set to become a hurricane soon, with now high confidence in direct landfall potential in the southern New England coastline. So this is gonna be kind of quick tonight. I wanted to get a longer video out, but it's late, and the first recording of this is way too long. So I'm just gonna try to we're gonna try to get something out to you, and tomorrow morning we'll try to get back on this and get you a little more comprehensive update. But we'll start with Grace this evening. Not much to talk about with this on final approach. This is the long track satellite loop of the system since yesterday, and boy, look at that. It's doing hurricane things. Imagine that. Get over warm water and watch her cook, and that has been the theme. Grace is a pretty nice looking Category 2 hurricane this evening with 100-mile-per-hour sustained winds. You can almost see the last couple frames an eye trying to come out, a little too cloud filled. She had another 12 hours. This would be a major hurricane. It'd probably be a Category 3 or 4 hurricane. But thankfully, she is only a few hours from landfall, and we'll be dipping down to the Mexican coastline this evening. Hurricane warnings remain in effect, and again, the maximum sustained winds 100 miles per hour, so she'll probably landfall top end Category 2, what we told you about yesterday, and it looks like that call was spot on. So bad news for the people down there, but hey, at least we got one right. So that's not much more to say about Grace. She's going to move in, move out, and she'll probably go into the Eastern Pacific over the weekend and could reform. So we'll see if the Hurricane Center restarts advisories on Grace or if they decide to give her a new name in the Pacific. All right, let's go ahead and move over to Tropical Storm Henri, the big ticket item this evening, guys. The big updates from this morning and yesterday are that the confidence has changed from is it going to landfall to how strong is it going to landfall and how fast is it going to landfall. So Hurricane Center's cone once again significantly shifted west, and this is probably where it's going to stay. Hurricane warnings up tonight for Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and parts in between. I can show you a little bit better graphic here from the Weather Channel. Again, areas in purple are expecting, no kidding, bona fide hurricane force winds over 75 miles an hour. Those in yellow orange are hurricane watches, where those winds could be around 75 miles per hour, but it's not certain. And then we have tropical storm force winds expected through much of New York, northeast New Jersey, and a little bit of a parts of kind of to basically where the west of where the eye comes ashore. On that backside wind isn't as strong as the front side wind that comes in off the water. So that's why we think the landfall is something like this. This is the worst of the weather, and then that backside over there. All right, let's go look at the satellite presentation of Henri, and we won't spend too much time on the meteorology of it this evening, but the bottom line with this system tonight is it doesn't look a whole lot better. It's still not very well aligned. We have a system that has a low-level circulation near the top of this cloud mass and a mid-level circulation down here. Most of the moisture and the winds are confined to the southeast quadrant where the outflow has been the best. This evening, Henri still has a little bit of northerly wind pushing on it, and then some westerly wind pushing on it as well, as this trough is starting to pick it up, but right now being more of a hindrance than a help. We can also see it on water vapor satellite imagery. Again, this is our player that is going to spin this thing up and in. You can see the clockwise rotation of the winds in this thing. It's just about to cut off. You can see the winds moving back over the Great Lakes, and then the strong surge of wind over Maine and southern Canada is the polar front jet that is cutting off the system and leaving it behind. So this low is going to sit here for a couple days. It's going to push Henri to the north and then eventually pinwheel it around to the west and move it ashore while it's blocked by a high pressure offshore here, and then a high pressure that's going to set up over the storm, which is going to block it for about 30 hours after it makes landfall before it can get up and out and escape. So it's going to basically just kind of pinwheel into the coast, make a pit stop, and then go ahead and take off instead of just taking this nice bend out of the coast. So we have to deal with it. Not very fortunate, but it is what it is. So again, the kind of the take here tonight, if you look at the hurricane hunters passes on the storm, the winds are really confined out on this side. There's a low to mid-level, like high off your screen here, that's like kind of creating this pressure gradient sort of flow. But the winds around the center are not very strong. You're talking pretty light winds. That central pressure staying around 995, 997. I mean, it's really not falling yet because the storms haven't wrapped around that center. So you can see here the dots indicating the center of the storm well away from where the most of the clouds are. I mean, it's basically on the edge of those clouds, and it's also vertically tilted with height. The hurricane models see this well. The HWRF will show it the best. HWRF, again, mid-level center according to the wind barbs right there. and then the low-level centers stamped over here at 992. So you can see the low and mid-level centers are not well aligned, and the model also correctly showing you most of the moisture and thunderstorms right again right on the edge of the system. So there's some drier air is also definitely doing it, but that double tandem of wind shear is really just kind of wrecking. You got that northeast flow around the edge of this high, and then you've got this trough blasting in. But what will happen in the next few hours is Henri will begin to intensify. Okay, the system's over very warm water. It's over the Gulf Stream, and this water is very warm. It's very deep as well, so it has no problem gaining plenty of fuel. And what's going to also happen is this trough is going to start coming in. And see all these milky, these wispy cirrus clouds down here. Well, soon you're going to start seeing these things advance north and kind of east, northeast, and northwest, and north. And the system is going to start breathing. Air is going to start diverging aloft. Like imagine you had a pot of water that was boiling over your stove, and you flip the hood on in the kitchen. Okay, well you just made divergence aloft, and all that steam is going to rise up into that. Well, that's what this upper low is going to do. As it moves northward further, it's going to come up and it's going to begin to kick it from the south, and all that wind aloft is going to start going out, and you're going to have a storm that's going to quickly intensify. And that's what the HWRF does show. This shows, this is valid this evening, Friday night, and then by early Saturday morning, you can see the storms begin to deepen. The winds, the centers have kind of pulled up. They're very close together, and you have moisture beginning to wrap around. Now, the HWRF may be overdoing it considering how poor the system looks right now. But, guys, these thunderstorms have been continuing, and, they're not going to get they're going to keep going. And the last few frames, you can see the northern edge of this cloud mass really begins to kind of advance, and the canopy is beginning to increase. So that could be an indication that this process is just starting. So Hurricane Center just forecast Henri to be a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane by tomorrow morning. And right now they only forecast 10 additional miles per hour of intensification. Now that could be on point given that the storm is kind of behind schedule as far as the intensity goes. Could also be an undershoot. Some people think that it could go all the way up to Category 2. I think Category 2 is becoming less likely. There's probably about a 10-20% chance, but I think that there's a very good chance this is a hurricane on approach. So the final micromanage becomes, okay, well, you have a hurricane on approach, most likely, and when does it begin to weaken? Because as we've shown you with the water temperatures, there is a sharp cutoff. There is the shelf of the Gulf Stream comes across right here. So Henri has a belt of cold water to travel through. Anything in green you see on your map will not support a hurricane. So anything below this yellow line, this yellow-green line dividing, is when the water will get cold. GFS shows this pretty well, so we'll back it up a little bit. GFS, again, shows the storm off North Carolina. Kind of a mess tonight. Strengthening tomorrow. Peaking late Saturday night into Sunday morning. 970 millibars, a nice, pretty decent hurricane. And then it begins to weaken. Notice in 6 hours, boom, pressure comes up 7 millibars in just 6 hours as soon as it hits that cold water. So definitely a storm that will be kind of coming down as it makes landfall, but how fast it traverses that cold water is a big deal. If the storm is already slowing down, it catches more time over this water, it will weaken more. If it's coming kind of fast, it won't weaken as much. Bottom line is the direct impacts are coming. The models have all shifted west. The hurricane tracks is on schedule. So we need to start talking about impacts. So what can you expect? Well, rainfall totals are going to be pretty prolific for this region. I mean, we're talking about a swath right now. The Weather Prediction Center thinks the heaviest rain will be just to the right of the center, which is very, very prudent call. All this moisture surging in from the ocean, and you can see 6+ inches of rain forecast for western Massachusetts, some of southern New Hampshire and Vermont, and then also into parts of Connecticut and Rhode Island. 6+ inches of rain is a whole lot for the New England region, guys. I mean, 6 to 10 inches of rain in Florida, Louisiana, it's kind of Texas. It's like, whatever, bring it on. I mean, it'll be wet for a day or two. I mean, whatever. You talk about this kind of rain in this urban territory, especially in a region that's already been wet this summer. This is going to be rough. This is going to be a whole lot of rain, and this is going to lead to an inland flooding problem. Again, well away from the coast. I mean, your coast down here, landfall's down here, but the heaviest rain will likely occur inland because Henri is forecast to stall out. Again, landfall 2 p.m. on Sunday near Long Island, but then 2 p.m. Monday, it's only basically made it up to near Vermont and New Hampshire, and it's not till Tuesday that it begins to really get offshore. So you're talking about 3 days, or yeah, basically 3 days of sitting here. Almost 48 hours over land, and then almost 3 days of actually being near the coast. So definitely a lot of heavy rainfall to come. Wind speeds, again, hurricane conditions are very possible. Probably Category 1 if it is. Could be a Category 2, probably Category 1. And you can see where the wind gust forecast the GFS is 70-80 mile an hour wind gust, very likely in parts of Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island is probably where most of your heaviest wind gusts will occur. But look at the tropical storm force winds, 40, 50, even 60s, spreading well inland. So this is going to be an inland power threat, knocking out power, trees, dangerous conditions, not even near the coast. So don't think just because you're not at the coast, you won't get the worst of it. But you can see the backside of the storm not as strong, and those tropical storm watches and warnings up for parts of, like, say, New York, where winds are probably more likely in the 35, 45 mile an hour range, and then I think Massachusetts may be a bit underdone on this model, but generally 35, 45, could be closer to 50 on the final call. But big wind field with the storm. The wind field will grow in size by tomorrow. I don't know if this model shows it pretty well or not, but we can try. We can see if the wind, if it expands the winds or not. So yeah, you can see the wind field gets a little bit bigger on the model as it approaches, and you said our onshore flow really kicking in by Sunday. And really the argument here too for the rainfall is that this rain is going to start like Saturday night into Sunday morning. So definitely expect to be done with your preparations by Saturday night, because by Sunday morning, Sunday early afternoon, you're already going to have tropical storm force winds and heavy rain on shore and on site. So preparations need to be done by then, and evacuations need to be done by then. So don't wait too much longer. One of the other reasons you should evacuate is the storm surge threat, 3 to 5 feet by the National Hurricane Center's forecast. This could come up a little bit more. This area is weird for storm surge because some of the oceanography really lends to surge and some of it doesn't. So it's kind of a hard call, but there have been storms like, say, Hurricane Bob in 1991 that produced up to a 16-foot storm tide, which is the combination of the regular tidal cycle, which can be 5 or 6 feet in this region or more, combined with the surge of the storm. So you have to kind of add in tidal water rises and the fact that those onshore winds are going to be blowing for 20, 30 hours, and those tidal cycles are going to go up, go down, but then when they go down, the water can't escape these inlets because it's being pushed back on shore by strong winds. So the water just collects, and then it rises a bit more, and then it rises a bit more. So water rises will be very important. If you're in an evacuation zone at the coast, it's probably because water directly threatens you, your life, and your property, and you need to get away from it, especially in a region that hasn't had a hurricane strike in a long time. You had Bob, Gloria, you had a really bad hurricane in the 30s. There's a couple little ones in between. I mean, your running average is about every 30 years for this sort of storm. Obviously, Sandy was the last storm like it, but Sandy wasn't a hurricane at landfall. It was an extratropical hybrid storm. So even with Sandy, it's been a while. It's been 3,300 days since this region was under a bona fide hurricane warning. So it's been a while, guys, and a lot of people in this region have never experienced that. They're in their 20s, 30s, even early 40s, and there's also a lot of people vacationing. So make sure the word's out in this region, like, hey, get away from the coast, get out it, get to the higher ground. Don't be messing around here. So that's what I've got, guys, this evening on Henri. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully in the morning, with another update. We'll see what the latest is, fine-tuning details and whatnot, and we'll see how the system looks tomorrow. So we'll talk to you then. Until then, stay safe and have a good one.